Grunics and Zilbermanses sometimes don't do exactly like the Gra would do. I don't trust that the way they're pronouncing Hebrew ritually is the way the Gra would have done it. I'm pretty confident in that. But more often than other groups, they're the ones who are actually doing things right. They're doing things as exactly described by the Talmud to the best of their ability. And they've been conducting these fast days, Bahab, for example, like you're supposed to. They're the ones who are doing it right with the prayers and the chatzosros and everything, which we're going to open up soon. We're going to open up the Rambam. We'll see what it says to do. And they're the ones who are actually doing it. By the way, it's brought in Shulchan Aruch too. It's not like this crazy Rambam thing. It's in Shulchan Aruch. It's in Bar-Hayim. Rabbi Wein said he was upset about people who said no march. He said Lakewood rabbis, or whoever it was, the more yeshiva types. He say, I'm not one of them. I don't have Das Torah. So they should be doing something. But I can understand they're saying Rabbi Wein, we can't go to the march because it's entirely the wrong people. It's against the Ruach HaTorah. But he tells them, but you have to do something, and they didn't do anything. So what should be done? And the answer is do like Tanakh and Chazal, like the Nevi'im and the sages would do. So they already describe what to do in such situations. We have a perfect example from start to finish in the second book of Chronicles. You want to hear this? The second book of Chronicles has what happened when King Yehoshaphat was under threat of military invasion. You know where it is? The second book of Chronicles, the 20th chapter. Yehoshaphat has a lot to say about him. It says, after these matters, I forgot to look up. What does it mean here? Bnei Ammon and the Ammonim. I know there's something there. I forgot it already. But it says Bnei Moav and Bnei Ammon came against him, and also Ammonites. Ammonites and Ammonites. So it must be there's something there, like trying to hide perhaps more Amalekites, whoever it was.
Perhaps there were different peoples. Maybe there were
people
that were from.
So you read the next verse seems to indicate that. So they came in. Whoever the scouts came and told Yehoshaphat, he's the king. Hamon Rav me'ever layam me'aram. Hamon Rav, great multitude from beyond the sea. That means from the west. Ammon and Moab to the east, saying they're coming from the west, from the sea. Me'aram and from Aram. That's not Ammon and Moab. That's northeast of Eretz Yisrael. Either way, so you're seeing they're just confused. It must be Westerners from Aram, and it's really Easterners. Okay, like you said, it's indicating that it's a lot of different groups. Wehinam bechatzason tamar. That's near En Gedi. He En Gedi. Oh, it says he En Gedi. Why yira? Why yitain Yehoshaphat panal lidrosh Hashem? So Yehoshaphat feared. So what did he do? He turned his face to seek God. His first fear. And then says, then he saw God, just like King David would do. Crisis. Let us seek God. Remember, we're talking about a tzaddik here. Why yikratzom al kol Yehuda? He declared a fast for all of Judah. Why yikavetzu Yehuda levakesh me'Hashem? So they all gathered together to implore God. Gam mikol arei Yehuda, also from all the cities of Judah. Ba'u levakesh Hashem. They also sought God. Everybody's coming. Even those people may not have heard. They understand crisis. Let us find God. Why amod Yehoshaphat b'kala Yehuda v'Yerushalayim b'veit Hashem? Yehoshaphat stood among the assembly of God in Jerusalem in the house of the Lord. That's the temple. Lifnei chatzer chadasha, in front of the new courtyard. That means what we call the Ezras Nashim, the outer courtyard. Vayomar Hashem Elokei Avotenu halo atahu Elokim b'shamayim. He started praying. Declare to God. It's actually a long prayer. And then it says the prophet stood up and actually told them, God has heard your prayers, now you're going to win. So he continues there. So they won. It says here that here I'm not going to read you all the details. Took away a lot of spoils and a lot of dead, all dead enemy. Why not? They took so much they couldn't carry enough. Full capacity. Why it took them 3 days to go through all the spoils. And on the fourth day, they finished doing that. They went to this place, Emak Bracha, and then they returned. Why Yashuvu Kol Ishu Davishlayim, V'Yeshafat Rosham, king leading them. By the way, that's what a proper Jewish king does. You know why a good Jewish leader will not do what Gantz, may he be removed speedily from our midst, would do. A Jewish leader is Motzia Mevi. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu described as his ideal leader. That's what says Joshua did. That's what the people describe King David as doing. Motzia Mevi Ta'am. He takes them out to war and he brings them back in. A Jewish king, or his stand-in, the Navi, the Shofet, whoever it was, like the Rambam says, it could be a Navi, a Shofet, or a combination thereof, or a king. So when he leads the Jews in war, he himself has to fight. it's very easy for someone to send his troops, toy soldiers. You go do it. You endanger yourselves. Our greatest Jewish kings, even the most wicked, put themselves at risk. They'll understand the value of a Jewish life when they do it themselves. So King David went out in front of his army, and so too Yoshaphat Berosham. The king has to go and fight. As a matter of fact, some Jewish kings fell in battle. Most notably, a few righteous ones: Shaul, Yoshiyahu, and even, of course, Achav. Achav himself was killed in battle. Yehoshaphat was nearly killed also. They saw him, they're going to kill. Oh, no, wrong, not Achav. We're gunning for the king, the other king. So that's what saved him. He cried out to God again. Yehoshaphat, it says he's the most, I think, after King David, he's the one who says he cried out to God the most, and God answered him. Yes, he was. Yehoshaphat. Achav was not righteous. Yehoshaphat is. So he's the one that's most and respond that God considered him a righteous person. He heard his prayers and saved him in war. Yes, and they point out David didn't go to war one time. He let his soldiers do it, and that's when he got tripped up in sin. Okay, so this is an important point. So it says Yehoshaphat came back and he brought them to Jerusalem, and they celebrated in the temple. So from here we learn what the sages describe. You first have to gather for prayer and repentance, fasting, confession, even without the Navi telling you, and in the temple, like we're going to see the Rambam says, but not in the main courtyard, because they can't be there all the time. The Kohanim are working, and also there's times go into the main courtyard when it's not time for the avoda. If it's already late in the afternoon, they're closing up shop. It's nighttime, so you gather in the outer courtyards or in beyond rest of Har-Bayis, other courtyards. Okay, and then you go out and fight and win and return to the temple on Thanksgiving. We should have right now. We should have had today, and that's what the Grunics were trying to do. Today, Har-Bayis should have been open so that this morning and this afternoon, all of Am Yisrael could have gathered there for prayer. That's what should have been done. That's what used to be done, and that's what's been forgotten. The Grunics, the Zilbermans types, they're the only ones who were even attempting to do that which the halacha and history demand of us. I want to say that we have a real gathering, a mass prayer gathering, real Jewish voices telling Jews and Gentiles like what should be done. That's what they're looking for.
We had such a gathering.
When?
20,
I'm talking about for the current crisis.
Yeah,
you had.
It can be done.
It can be done. It should be done. Yes, there's been. You see, there was an Atziras Geshamim years ago in the days of Rabbi Mordechai Eliyahu and Rav Lau. There was a problem with no rain, so then they reacted. You see that they have a prayer gathering at the Kotel. That was just shy of doing it right, because they did the Kotel with Chatzotzros and everything, and they did have a mass prayer gathering. You could see their pictures in the back in the books there. You could spot all the celebrities. So that was good, but that was when there was already not a lot of rain. I don't know why for this current thing there hasn't been mass prayer gatherings. That's what should be done, and it should be done in the temple. So I want to say
it wasn't done for the other wars either.
I don't know, but I wasn't there.
But it should have been something.
It should have been done. Yes, it should have been done. That's what they should do. You have to gather, Leich kenoset kol yudim, like Esther says, vitsumu alai. She couldn't write. Did you know that the Targum for there's a few Targumim, and it's not like Targum Onkelos or Targum Yonason, which is for the Torah and for the Nevi'im respectively. There's Targum for the Ksufim. There's no official Targum, but Targums exist. So the Targumim they print in the Mikros Gedolos for Esther are full of midrashim. So they're later. They're not official Targumim, but a lot of them have the outtakes from the story. Don't forget, Esther itself is censored. It's written under the watchful eye of Achashverosh's scribes. So there's no mention of God, for example, or of prayer itself, or how much they relied on God. So the Medrash has to fill it in. But their outtakes, we found other, let's say, for people like documentary hypothesis, we've actually found, outtakes in other languages, and like Septuagint style things. The things that Esther and Mordechai said about their relying on God and their prayers. Divrei tzomot v'za'akatam. Who are they crying out to?
Was something that was extrapolated later?
No, it was saying that apparently it was taken out by then and there, because people knew that when Mordechai went to Vayizak Zakah Gdola Umara, he didn't just scream; he screamed to God. But that aspect had to be taken out. So too, the Targumim put it back. How they prayed and they thanked God and their words of thanksgiving afterwards. It'll take it out of Mikros Gedolos. We can read it here. So Esther's whole plan was Kenoset Kol Yudim, gather all the Jews and pray for me. So that's what you should be doing. And it says they had mass gatherings. And then go to war. It's not sufficient. You could rely on God, but then you have to pick up the sword and do it. And it just has not been done. I would hope that at least where the soldiers have been massing, and they were practicing a long time. You know, it was the longest 24 hours. You have 24 hours until we invade Gaza, and it only ended up being 3 weeks. 24 hours lasted 3 weeks, and that's a bigger miracle than Joshua just extended a day. His day wasn't even 24 hours, but he just made the sun stand still and extended the day. That was a miracle. So Bibi got, 21 times as great as Joshua did. That he made a day last 3 weeks. Well, what a big tzaddik. Okay, so I would say that here's the confession of national sins. If we were to have such a gathering, you have to have a massive vidui. And the vidui should consist of the acknowledgement of what's been done wrong, and then Kabbalah al ha'asid, which means the acceptance of what to do in the future, So it says here, you gave us the commandment to appoint the king of your choice. That's what God told us. We were supposed to appoint the king of God's choice. Woe unto us, for we have rebelled and appointed leaders whom you have not chosen and who do not do thine will. That's the first thing. First, al-hate. You commanded us to drive out the hostile inhabitants of the land so that we can settle it. Woe unto us, for instead we have left them to be a plague upon us. You commanded us to destroy Amalek, those who have shown that they would do anything to destroy us. Woe unto us, for instead we have allowed them to prosper and multiply, and we have allowed them to kill us. You commanded us to wage war according to your laws for the sake of our people and our land, and you promised us victory if we did so. Woe unto us, for instead we have either simply refused to go to war, right? That's true, or we have waged war with perverted intentions, and thus we have not been victorious. You commanded us to settle the enviable and fertile land that you gave us. Woe unto us, for instead we have remained distanced from it. You commanded us to appoint judges in our gates to teach us your Torah and adjudicate according to it. Woe unto us, for we have instead appointed arrogant, godless ignorami to legislate by their whims and pervert justice. You commanded us to build a house for thine great name. Woe unto us, for we have left it abandoned and in ruins. You commanded us to worship you there and to bring our sacrifices. Woe unto us, for we do not even try to do so. You commanded us to be holy and abstain from forbidden relations, and to acknowledge your omnipotence and timelessness by keeping the Sabbaths and not worshiping false gods. Woe unto us, for we have desecrated your Sabbaths with gatherings dedicated to fornication and paganism. You commanded us to love each other as we love ourselves. Woe unto us, for we have hated and pursued each other even more than we should our own enemies. You commanded us to trust in thee alone. Woe unto us, for we have placed our trust in noblemen, money, and arms that do not save us in our times of need. You gave us your law and commandments for our own good. Woe unto us that we barely study your law, and too often choose not to keep many of its commandments. Therefore, we ask for your forgiveness, and we take it upon ourselves to keep your commandments from now on. That's basically that's an English translation. That's what the standard vidui sounds like. It's tefillah zaka almost. This is what God intended. This is what He gave us, but we haven't done it right.
Where is it?
This is what I wrote. That's what I'm saying. That if we have to say a national confession, in order to go to war, this confession first has to be stated by the leaders and has to be internalized by everybody. This is the confession. This is what Am Yisrael has not done. This is what Am Yisrael needs to do. This is what needs to be said. This is what needs to be heard. And this is what needs to be internalized by everybody. And then only once we've made this declaration and we've actually said it sincerely, we've committed to it. Remember, it has an acknowledgement of the past and Kabbalah al Asid. Only then can we actually go to Toch Kedei. You have to do both while the soldiers are fighting. Or the soldiers should have had this type of pep talk beforehand. That's why we have to go to the temple and do this. And
Will you be able to send
what?
a copy of that?
I'm going to put this out online for everybody. Okay? And I'm going to put it into Hebrew also.
We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. If you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org.